Really, really excited to introduce you to such an interesting guy. And he's got a series of books actually that are fascinating. Think of Haiku, and we'll explain all that. But his name is Mark Fargo, and he joins us here on Author's Corner on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. And we're talking specifically about Motorcycle Haiku 4. Lobo Solitario continues his travel in Noir and Blanc. Wow, that is a mouthful, but it is incredible. Just remember, Motorcycle Haiku 4. Mark, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Kate, for having me.
So let's talk about what this is all about. You are a solo motorcycle rider, and you have seen great swaths of this country, and you've written about it. Is that what led to Haiku and putting this together? I mean, it's kind of two different things. First of all, explain to everybody about Haiku, those who don't understand that poetry.
Well, the Japanese version of Change of Seasons is done in a 3-line, 17-syllable poem. And of course, traditionally, the Japanese would write that poem vertically, and it would just be about the changing of seasons. I've kind of adapted that to just being on the road daily. And I didn't even really consider haiku because I've been a beat poet for a long time, a beatnik poet. And then my last year of teaching, a couple Japanese exchange students just saw some of my pictures from my travels, and they said, well, those are interesting. Why don't you write haiku to describe the pictures? And I thought about that, and I thought, well, I look at everything as a challenge. And then I started writing big rides, 1-2 months at a time, 7, 10, 12,000 miles. I would just go without without any itinerary or reservations. And that's kind of the way I wanted to look at it. And then the pictures I take are like a snapshot of what happened to me that day. And so I can always thank these gals, because I never thought I'd just be writing 17 syllables. That's compared to what I had been writing over the years. And so I kind of looked at it as a challenge, and then I started doing research. If there was a picture that needed some historical background, so I started writing travel logs underneath the haiku, and then I started writing stories about people I met on the road. And so it's kind of gone from a kind of pretty simple book to a much more of a book about my travels and meeting people. And so it's become a little more complicated than just taking a picture and writing haiku.
Yeah, but in this book, in this particular one, the Haiku 4, you have some unbelievable images of, Yosemite, California, all over the place. I mean, that make you want to go there. That's what I think it is. You pull us right in, and then the poetry that you weave into it is the same thing. It adds to those, the photos that you're showing us. And specifically, what was this last adventure like?
Actually, I've got another one after that, but the difference is these are now, I'm filtering my shots in black and white, and I had French in middle school. That's why I would say Noir et Blanc, because I met someone that said, like, God, you're taking pictures of Yosemite. That's got to be a big, huge image, and it's got to be in black and white. And then I started doing the last 2 books in black and white. And I kind of just felt like, gosh, this is kind of overwhelming when you have big images. I think they're more distinct and bring things out more when they're in black and white as opposed to color.
Yeah. You're riding like 20,000, averaging 20,000 miles a year on your bike. Tell us about your bike and, what that's been like overall, being on that bike, you and the bike and the helmet.
Well, I kind of started out with a 50cc scooter And that kind of led me to a 175, and then I was on a 650, and then I started traveling big. And then I got to the point where I needed a heavier bike to handle the big winds, because I'll be at 15,000 feet or something, and 40-mile gusts come up, and you can get blown off the road pretty quickly. And so I got this Yamaha Super Tenere, which is a dual sport, which means I go off-road some, not much more than gravel roads. I'm not doing the smaller bikes and jumping off of rocks or anything. But it's a great touring dual sport bike. And I just kind of felt like this is an affordable bike that's well built, it's well engineered, it's got great reviews. And I just thought I need to be on this bike. And so I technically sold my car before I bought the bike 9 years ago. And I've only been on this bike, pretty much daily when I'm riding. I'm recuperating from back surgery right now, not bike related, but I needed to have surgery, so I didn't ride as much last year as I certainly would normally do. I'd normally be on the road right now, or I'd be in the Mojave Desert, where wintertime in the Mojave is just great. And, a lot of I like riding deserts as well. So, I mean, I don't have specific things that I always do, but I'll take hints from locals, and I'll say, do you have some interesting rides around here? And they'll say, sure. And why don't you go up this highway? And I can't even really find it on my map. So some of the places I go are just off the beaten path sort of places. And I want, go ahead.
And sorry. Finding those off the beaten path places, like you said, relying on the locals, how do you initially decide though? I mean, you have to kind of pick a direction. How do you decide that? Part of me thinks you're throwing a dart at a map, but I know you're not doing that. How does that all work?
Well, I think what happens is I have friends and family in various parts of the country, old high school friends that live in eastern Tennessee, but a son that lives in western Iowa, just people all over. And then I kind of, people will tell me that travel a lot. Well, have you been to so-and-so? And I go, no, where's that? And then I kind of look and see like, well, I could go visit a family member or a friend on my way to going wherever that place may be. I only had one thing in plan last year, and that was to go to the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald Museum up in the UP there at the in Superior Lakes. And that was the only goal I had for a 6-week trip. Was that one particular spot. On the way, relatives in Wisconsin, and I just don't like traveling saying I have to go here on Tuesday and by Friday I have to be there. I don't travel like that. I don't make hotel reservations because I don't know if I want to just travel 200 miles or 500 miles. So to me it's more adventurous, not having everything set on a trip.
I was going to say that's the ultimate freedom. That's what it feels like, right?
I don't think there's anything like riding a motorcycle on a 2-lane road somewhere in central Oregon. I think it was off of Highway 97. I went about 30 minutes between wheat fields on a 2-lane road, and I didn't see one person.
Wow.
And I just thought, man, this is a high that you just can't have, when you're around a lot of people. I don't go to national parks in the summer because of all the people. So basically from Memorial Day to Labor Day, I don't do national parks or anything where there's a lot of people. I wait till the spring or fall to do those trips. But, I just love being out there. I just can't express how free it feels to be on a bike like the Tenere, and I'm in control and I'm in a safe bike and everything else.
And you don't make reservations. It's like you said, maybe you only want to go 200 miles, maybe you want to go 400 or 500, whatever it might be. So you probably have stayed in some interesting places. I mean, do you end up camping out?
I used to camp more. I'm in my 70s now, Kate. So, sometimes the tent at 25-mile-an-hour winds being set up isn't that much fun. But I have stayed in, I kind of pride myself on finding these smaller family-owned motels, 10, 12 rooms, maybe, as a lot of my friends have told me, not the safest part of town. I've stayed in some places where technically a hook is the lock. And so that's not really security for a lot of people, but I always kind of feel like I find those places because they're family run and they're just friendly, small places. They're certainly not fancy. But I have stayed in some places which some people might consider a little more risky. But I don't look at that as like, I don't ever go to a place that I feel unsafe,
For you, when you first started doing this, could you ever have imagined you would have put on all these miles, met all these people, gone to all these places? I have a feeling it just happened, right? And you rolled with it, so to speak.
I rolled with it, when I turned 60. As a kid, because I was a kind of a risk taker, you're talking to someone who, bought a one-way ticket when he was 20 to go to Europe.
Tell us how you ended up running with the bulls and who you met that made all that happen.
So I met some guy in England who goes, "Hey, would you like to run with the bulls in Pamplona?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And then he told me about it, and I said, "Sure." And we had a contest and hitchhiked from Calais, France, down to Pamplona, and I met him there to run with the bulls. And we didn't maintain our friendship after that, but it's kind of like that's the way I kind of was as a kid. And I thought me on a motorcycle probably wouldn't be a good fit at that time. But starting these rides at 60, I just felt like, wow, now I can take my time. And at the time I was still teaching, so I just traveled summers. And now I travel whenever I feel like it because I'm retired and I can go and come as I please.
Yeah, and what about the people you've met along the way?
A lot of the local people are very friendly. Sometimes I think we might have mentioned that the California license plate brings on interesting conversations sometimes. And I always look at these places as if I can find the town's diner, I'll be ecstatic, because that's where you really kind of get a chance to talk to people who have maybe not even left the county they grew up in. And some people I've met, they're 40, 50 years old. They've never left the county they were born in. And they seem to have a different perspective of the United States than I do, because I'm just finding out why we have such a diverse country that we do.
And that makes it exciting, though, in a way, doesn't it?
Well, I love it because it's a different adventure every day. I have no expectations when I turn my ignition key, except that I always feel like, well, what's going to happen today? And just let it happen, as opposed to have some preconceived thing about, what part of the country I'm in.
When people read any of your books, including this one, which they can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever great books are sold for a song, by the way, what do you hope they take away?
I want them just to experience what I do as the per day, as the day goes on. Most of the people that follow my trips and buy my books are travelers. They're not necessarily motorcyclists, because I don't fit that norm of I don't ride with people. I mean, I might ride locally for the day, go drive 100 miles, have lunch, and come back with some friends now and then. But when I'm on the road, I travel alone, and I kind of want them to see what I'm photographing and what's happening that day as I'm traveling. And I just kind of feel it's a great way to share non-famous places that you might see along the way.
Yeah, well, your books are really, really entertaining. I've started to dive into some more of them too. I can't wait for the next one and your next adventure when that back gets better.
I will. I will be able to ride. Actually, on my birthday, towards the end of April. There, I'll be flying back to Virginia to pick up my bike, and I'll start a East Coast trip, and then come west. Which is, usually I'm going east and come back, but I haven't really spent enough time on the New England and up in that area. I still want to go to Cooperstown because I'm a baseball fan. So that's something I haven't done my whole life. So that will probably be the one thing when I get back on the road. I want to go to Cooperstown to the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Ooh, well, I've been there. You'll love it, and you'll spend some time there for sure.
At least a couple days.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Mark Fargo, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, Kate. And the next book, well, probably later this year. I got to make up some time out there to collect some more photos. But I have some great stories about last year and how this happened where I couldn't ride, and then I had to come home. I mean, that's the first time the 12 years I've been on the road, I haven't completed a trip. So there were some stories to go along with that.
We'll be looking for it. Thanks, Mark.
Well, thank you, Kate, and safe travels.